Hi, computer lovers. Last week, we had a discussion and we needed at work to run a graphical installer inside Linux. And my colleague didn't believe me that I would be able to set up in 30 minutes an Linux desktop in a browser. Also, I have described it here in linuxintro.org. Anyway, I did it and I wanted to show you also how you can do it as well. First of all, how does it look like when it works? You see here my screen. This is a normal browser, as you can see. And here in this tab, I have my remote control. So I have my Linux display of a server that is running in a data center in the Netherlands. And I can just do it as I can do with a local Linux desktop. I can play some games, I can call accessories, and as usual, the most important thing, I can start a terminal and issue the usual commands there, ls, uptime, just a normal Linux desktop, with the exception that it is running on a virtual machine in a data center. And in case you don't believe me that this is in a data center, look here, we start a Firefox browser and I go to google.com and you see this is, I am being greeted in Dutch. While here on my local computer, when I Google here, it's in German. So believe me, in 30 minutes, you will be able to do the same if you listen to this video. To do it, you will need a virtual machine with Linux installed on top of it and GNOME Display Manager installed on top of that. And then we will use Guacamole to export a VNC session to the browser. Yeah. So let's get a virtual machine. First, I always recommend creating a new project. I'm working in Google Cloud here. I do work for Google, so this cloud is the most natural choice for me. However, I can imagine it works with other clouds as well. Anyway, here we are, and we call this project now desktop, and create this new project. And in it, we create a virtual machine. Okay, first we have to select the project, go to give it a bit of time, enable compute API. And now we can create a new virtual machine, a new Google Compute Engine instance. So we click on Create Instance. We have the chance to run it in Iowa or somewhere else. Yeah. Let's see. It costs $25 per month if I let it run in Iowa. If I let it run in the Netherlands, which is closer to me, it costs $28, not $25. That's worth it for me because of the lower latency. I will see much better performance. I do wish to use an E2 medium, but just for the time of installing, because then it goes faster. I will later on switch that instance to E2 small or even E2 micro, because in normal operation, not so much performance is needed. Just want to have this video go quick. So I select a machine with many CPUs. We will have to do some compilation work here. As a boot disk, I changed the operating system to Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. LTS stands for long time support. So even in 2 years, you may still be able to follow this tutorial and see the same results. Okay, so I select Ubuntu. I allow HTTP traffic and HTTPS traffic, and I create that virtual machine. Now it has been created in less than a minute, and let's quickly check the console. I click on SSH, which means that via the browser, it now builds up a session to the operating system of the virtual machine. I have to authorize that. And now I do exactly what I describe in linuxintro.org in the Guacamole page. I do apt-get update. This is a command to update the package management of the operating system. With apt-get update, I update the package management system of the operating system. Yeah, but only if I'm super user. So let's become super user. And it gets updated. And the next step is to install some packages, software packages, that is. I will install Tomcat, VNC server, and the Ubuntu GNOME desktop, and many others. So that will take 15 minutes. So that will give me enough time to work in another browser. And do the next steps that will be needed according to my tutorial on Linux Intro. We will need to configure the VNC. VNC is the software that exports the Linux desktop to the internet. It does not do this into a browser, but into a VNC client. Then the software Guacamole is used to connect the browser with the VNC session. You will soon understand. Also here we become super user, and we start with VNC. What we have done here is we have created a directory .vnc for the VNC configuration, and then we have created an X startup file. So whenever VNC gets started, it will call X startup in that directory, and X startup will call GNOME, and it will use the flashback MetaCity session type. And here, this command means that we make X startup executable. It has not worked because I was in the wrong directory. So we say chmod, change mode, plus X means plus execution. So execution of this file will be allowed. And the file is .vnc/x startup. Now enter. And from now on, the VNC server can run. The VNC server, however, will not yet display anything because the installation of GNOME, the display manager, is still ongoing. So let's make a short jump in the time, and I will be back once this here has finished. And I'm back because the installation of the needed software has finished. We now do have a VNC server and a GNOME desktop, and we can test this. So I'm here on instance 1. That means I'm in the virtual machine in the data center in the Netherlands, and I can start VNC server. We are now doing this just to test if the configuration has worked, or to demo that the configuration has worked. So I start VNC server. VNC server requires a password from me. I give it the password. This is just for the purpose of the demo and to keep it easy. So it is also important that you started all this in a separate project, because if that now gets compromised, it is not so bad if you are in a separate project, which means that you are being isolated from your other projects. Would you like to enter a view-only password? No, I do not want to do this. Now I'm starting a terminal here, a Linux terminal. And I start a VNC viewer. And this VNC viewer goes onto my instance in the Netherlands, which would be 34.32.155.54:1. This :1 stands for the VNC session. And I think this will now not work because I have not configured the firewall rule to allow for this. And yeah, indeed, it does not work. So let's go firewall. In the firewall, we allow ports 5900 till 5999. We call this allow VNC. By the way, you do not need to do this. You only need to do this in case you want to demonstrate that it worked. So allow all instances in the network. This is only one. And allow all source IP ranges. As I said, TCP port 5900 till 5999. And here it is, the new rule to allow VNC connections to this network. And the VNC viewer comes through and it asks for the password. Password I type, and here it goes. It has opened a new window. And here I see exactly what would be running on the server if we were to put a display to it. So next, I choose German keyboard. How about that? German keyboard, German normal keyboard. Next. And it says setup complete. Start using Ubuntu. Okay, and here it is, my Ubuntu. And I can say open terminal, can say uptime to find out how long it has been running. It has been running for 14 minutes. This is exactly when I started this virtual machine. So we see something works here. We can already control this Linux computer via a graphical desktop over the internet. What is not possible yet is that this graphical desktop is inside a web browser. And that is what we are going to do next. Also, I like the idea that we can type the commands in here now. I would like to continue with this thing here. With the console that I started earlier. Where I last said chmod plus x VNC x startup. And where VNC viewer now works. Next step is to download the Guacamole web app. Remember, the Guacamole web app, no, the Guacamole is there to put the VNC session into a browser. So first we download it using the command wget, so webget. Then we deploy it by just copying it into the Tomcat directory. And now the Guacamole front end runs. Yeah? If you don't believe me, that's good. Then let's look at the server itself using a browser. How is the IP address of this server? Let's look. We open this in a new tab. Doesn't work because it's port 8080 as usual with Tomcat. Okay. And now I remember that also for port 8080, I do not have a firewall rule allowing this. So let's go back to firewall rules, create firewall rule, allow minus Tomcat, I will call it, ingress on all instances in the network. All source IP ranges, TCP port 8080 shall be allowed. And you see as the rule builds up, and it works. The rule got propagated, and you can now serve to port 8080, and you will see this message that Tomcat is working. Has not yet anything to do with Guacamole, no problem, because Guacamole is in the subdirectory Guacamole. And here we now have the possibility to log in to Guacamole, but we are still missing the backend. So we do not know which user to use, we do not know which password to use, and the system does not know how to connect. No problem. So we tell the system how to do that. And for that, we go again to the console and start with the Guacamole server. To get this installed, we first install some dependencies like this. And we download some stuff simultaneously. As described in the article on linuxintro.org, I want to download Guacamole server. I want to unpack it. Now we go to Guacamole server, and we do the usual step to build it, configure, and make -J8 and make install. The interesting part here is this J8. It means that I will use 8 jobs running simultaneously for compiling this software. And now we will have the full use of the many processors that we configured when installing the virtual machine. I don't think we have 8 logical processors, but we have more than we will have during normal operation. So it starts compiling, and I want to know how many processors we have, and I'm just using this window here to look for that. Clean a bit up regarding oh, it's already done. It is already done, okay. So next step that we do is look how many CPUs we have. Oh, we only have 2. Well, okay, 8 jobs is still not bad. Then it just takes a bit longer. And now we have to do one confusing step, which is really confusing, and I would like not to have to do it because it's hell to explain what I'm doing it here, and maybe I'm doing it in another video. It could have been made easier to us by the publishers of Guacamole, to say the least. But now we have a perfect installation of the Guacamole server, also known as Guacamole daemon. And we start this now. It's running, yeah. And from now on, the web front end, the web app, has something to connect with. Still, we need a configuration of the Guacamole, and for this, I create a configuration directory etc guacamole. In this, I create guacamole.properties containing the actual configuration, including all port numbers and so on, and telling the thing how to get its user mapping done. And the user mapping will be an XML file. Minus mapping.xml. And it is supposed to look like this. And now we configure Tomcat to look for Guacamole. We do this by make directory.guacamole in Tomcat's user directory, and then by linking Guacamole properties there. If you have looked at the user mappings, that here, and you see that the username is user and the password is password. As I said, I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. Afterwards, there's a lot of security hardening to be done, but that shall not be part of this video because then it would become too long. So now the next part is that we enter this here. As I said, the username is user and the password is password. And now we have it. First, we get a warning that the passwords are not strict enough. That is okay. We will change them, but I won't tell you how I will change them. So close this warning, and we can then work with the Linux desktop, which is in a browser. You see, here's the browser, other tabs, and we work on it. And how long has it taken? 24 minutes, not even 30 minutes. So there's a lot in front of us. Now we need to take care about security. We need to take care that this thing automatically starts after a reboot and many more things. But for this, let's talk in the comments and read my wiki page, linuxintro.org/wiki/guacamole. And yeah, see you in the comments.